Welcome back. This week we're going to go with my Rainbow Riffle. We're going to do this one in a Midnight Haze in black. This is one of the Midnight Haze is a ice dub from Hairline. Really looks good against a black fly. So we're going to go ahead. I've been tying a ton of these lately. I think there's probably close to 5 dozen sitting behind me. Really like the way this thing swims, really like the way that it looks in the water especially. It's kind of one of those hybrids too. I mean, usually a black fly you fish on a dark day, but with this Midnight Haze and a little bit of flash in it, you can get away fishing this on a lighter day as well. The back hook is an MFC 7050 size 4. Make sure that everything looks good there. And as always, 100 gel spun UTC. Get that in there, and then we're going to go with a black tail on this. Just going to get 2 pieces out here. Oh, let's see what I got here. There's one. That one fell in my lap. I'm going to make that one number 2. Okay. Measure this out to the length of the hook, slightly longer if anything. Get that secured in place. And then I'm just going to take this to the front for some bulk. Everything looks pretty clean there. Now I'm going to take 2 pieces. This is just straight black Flashabou. 2 pieces in that. Double this up, run it right down the side, just short of the overall length of the tail. Get those secured in place. And then we'll trim these the same length on the opposite side. One more piece of Marabou and this will finish off our tail. Where did I put that other one at? Oh, well. Get that off to the side. Get this the same length, if anything slightly longer than the piece underneath it. Get that secured in place, and before I go covering that up for the bulk, I'm going to take my brush and put this in. I'm going to see which end I like better. I like this one for a start. I'm going to tie this brush in. Get rid of this wire. There we go. Get that all cleaned up, form a half hitch, get this in the cradle. Now we're just going to run this right to the front. Really easy back section on this fly. Make sure that you're covering up that white thread with your first couple of wraps. And I want this just short of the eye of the hook because I have some Marabou to throw in there. This these dubbing brushes speed this process up, speed this fly up, I should say. It's amazing the amount of time that you can cut off. There's a little bit of investment in time building these things, but when it comes down to tying these, especially in a production set, it cuts down so much time. I can knock out probably a dozen back halves in 45 minutes. Well, probably even less than that, actually. Can get those cranked out pretty quick. So I'm just gonna pick this stuff out, peel these fibers back, clean up this eye just a little bit, and I'm going to tie in my under and over wings. Now, instead of using this straight blood quill Marabou, I'm going to go with the woolly bugger Marabou. Sorry, I spaced out there for a second. Alright, we're going to go with the woolly bugger Marabou for our under and over wings. You can see is on this one right here, this tip is just completely busted up. It's useless. So I'm going to peel this stuff off on the side, and that's what I'm going to use right here. You're able to get a decent amount of bulk out of this. Peel this off so it's standing in a 90, and then straight down. I'm going to measure this out. I want it going back past the tie-in point for my tail. I want it overlapping just a little bit. Get that secured, and then trim that up, make sure the eye's still clean. We're good to go. Just get a few thread wraps in there to clean everything up there. Now I'm going to take some black ice wing fiber, just a small little pinch of that out of the package, double it up, and I'm going to run this going right back and then the same thing on the other side. I've done this with purple ice wing as well, and I kind of like the way that it looked. It kind of meshed pretty neat with the Midnight Haze. But we're just going to go straight black on this one. Now we're going to take another piece of Marabou here. There's some busted up pieces on that. I don't know if I like that. I'm going to take a different. There's some busted up pieces on that I didn't like. This actually works really good right here. We'll use this section. Lay that over the top. Make sure that you're getting about the same length as your bottom, and then just tie that in. There we go. There's our back half. Pretty simple. Couple turn whip finish, and we're ready to go. Alright, I'm going to touch this thread up slightly. This is just some gray. Just to tone this down a little bit. Wind up covering a decent amount of this up with the skirt anyhow. So I mean, it's not an absolute necessity to do that step. If you want to skip it, by all means go ahead. Connection wire. Get that set in here. Same as always, kink that wire. 2 beads on this one. I go with 2 beads on the Rainbow Riffles. Get that out and the size 2 in. There's nothing really usable on that. Alright. We're going to get our thread base down. my measurement for this is always between the hook point and the barb of the hook. That's where I always leave off with my thread when I'm starting this, or when I'm starting this front hook. And it's basically the same for just about any hook that I tie. The only difference really, the gummies and some of the Arex, their curve starts a little bit further forward and you don't want to go down over that curve, but I'll explain that when I tie on a gummy or something like that, when I do a white girl or D&D. We'll highlight that a little bit better. Alright, get your measurement where you want it, get your distance right. I like that right there. Too much and you wind up fouling. These things wind up fouling on themselves. Too little and you rob the articulation, so make sure that you get your distances right from the beads and then the loop right there. Just going to run this forward. Nothing new here. Nothing new here. Flip this around. Get back here. Same thing with this one. And then I'm gonna, I got room there. I can just run that all the way back. Get a whip finish. And then back to the gel spun. It's been a couple of videos since I've mentioned this, but I typically, when I'm connecting my wire, or when I'm connecting, or when I'm putting lead eyes or anything else in, I tend to go with, I think that's just a 140 right there in gray, or whichever color I have sitting around. I don't like to use the gel spun. It's just really unnecessary. It's a waste of gel spun right there, honestly. So I usually go with a lesser thread and get that down. It saves me a little bit of GSP. Now we're gonna go with a skirt on this one. I'm gonna go back to the Woolly Bugger Marabou for this. I'm gonna find some stuff here. This is gonna be a 3-part skirt, 2 on the sides, or 1 on each side and then 1 over the top. Take same thing, hold this at a 90, peel this stuff out. This is going to be the stuff going down the sides. Get that tied in and secure, and then same thing between the point of the hook and the barb is what you want for your reference point to leave off with your material. That one's a little sparse at the end right there, so all I'm going to do is just grab that and bust that off, and it fluffs that out for me a little bit. I'm going to set this against the one that I have tied in, make sure that I get my lengths the same, get that nice and secure. Now I'm going to take a 3rd piece over the top, and it's going to work into that back overwing. When I first started tying this pattern, I never did this. I just put the 2 down the side, and I've since put that 3rd one over the top, and I really like the way that it looks. It fills the fly out a lot more. Just gives a better overall look. Now we're going to go back to our brush. Get that tied in. Get that secure, and I'm going to stop. Leave about, I don't know, maybe 1/4 of an inch for the remaining materials and the head. Get a couple of good wraps there, anchor that in place. A few more wraps. I think I can fit 1 more in there, and I'm going to have to pick out some I'm gonna have to pick out some of this shaggy dub because it's all trapped under there. So I'm gonna grab my bodkin real quick, make sure that's out of the frame good. Oh, there we go. Grab the bodkin and I'm just gonna go right through here. I'm gonna pick out this shaggy dub. Got a little heavy on this brush on that one section there, but that's alright. I kind of like when it's uneven and mixed up a little bit. Alright, now I'm going to peel this stuff back. Get a few wraps on there, clean this up a little bit so it's easier to work with. I don't have legs flying all over the place at the moment. Go back to the woolly bugger Marabou, and this is where I'll get pretty selective on this front section. I like to find stuff that has more material than what I used on the back, so I typically try and find the tips here. For some reason I like the bottom one less full than the top. Personal preference, time however you want. If you want the bottom one to be more full, then by all means go ahead. Now this is nice. You got to be careful when you're selecting this woolly bugger, because some of these stems up toward the tip, they will be so rigid that it won't allow this material to flow. So you want to make sure that these stems are nice and pliable. And if you can't find a stem, like if it's rigid like that is right there, just pick this off from the side like I did on the back. But for some reason, like I said, I feel like it fills the fly out a little bit more when you use these tips, if you can find good ones. So we'll get that secured in place. And we're going to go with some lateral scale. This stuff makes the absolute best lateral line of anything that I've seen, especially in this black with the darker patterns. It just seems to really jump out. So now I'm going to get that set in place. I want this running right down the center. My first couple of wraps on this are going to be loose, that way I'm able to manipulate this and move it the director, make sure that it's going laterally and it's not kicked off to a side or anything. That one's running pretty nice for me right there. You can see it running right down the center, and then I clip it between the point of the hook and the barb on this back one. And that's a little tough to see with all the material there, but that's my reference point for this lateral line. Move this to the front a little bit, that way I have a little bit of room here to get this thing running the direction that I want. See how I have all of this extra room now? If I only went like 1 or 2 wraps right there, it would be really tough. I would be rushed to get this thing running laterally. It would want to kick to one direction or the other, up or down the hook or up or down the fly. Pull this tight, have your tension have the tension on there, that way you can get the measurement. Let it loose and trim that. It's the same reference point that you used for the front one, or for the one on the opposite side. Back to this ice wing, just about to the end of this pack here. I'm gonna add very little ice wing. Don't get carried away on this stuff at all. You really don't need a ton of it. Spin that around and everything's clean there. Like I said before on this stuff, when you're cutting it, just push your scissors right through it. It looks better to me if it's uneven, and if it's just a straight cut, I really don't like the way that it looks. So I just push my scissors straight through there, and it gives it that nice little rugged look that I like on it. Alright, let's see if I can find a good one here real quick, and if I can't, I'm just going to pick one. Nope. Alright, I'm going to find something that has really webby feathers here, and then I'm just going to pick this off the side. This will work. Strip all that stuff off. That stuff there was a little bit too short. It's not going to give me the overall length that I want for this. So make sure I get a good amount. And then throw this over the top. And remember what I said? I want this running back to the skirt. I want it covering up a portion of that skirt. So throw this in here. Make sure that you don't short yourself. And then I'm just going to clean all of that up. I'm going to give this one more look. Make sure if you don't have enough material, add a little bit extra. I'm happy with the way that one's sitting, so I'm going to leave it as is. And we're going to go right into the head on this. This is just some Senyo's laser dub in black. I'm not going to cut this with anything. I want it to be just a straight black. I like all of the UV in here, and this is where that purple kind of, I should have thrown the purple ice wing in here because there's a little bit of a purple property to this laser dub, and it mixes really well with it. Maybe I'll show a picture of one here. Before the video, I'll just rotate between the two different, that way if I have one floating around here, I can always tie another one, I guess. That way you guys can kind of see the way that matches up together. It's a pretty good look. Alright, we've got 2 pieces in there, and this is all that I use. I use 2 pieces on the top and bottom, so 4 total. And this is all that I use, and I'll explain why when it comes time to put on the eyes. Cup that down, get that put right in place, right where you want it, and then pull straight down, and it's going to tighten that up. I'll walk through that one a little bit better on this one here. Explain this just a little bit more to make sure that you get these nice and secure. Now this is one thing that you always want to do when you're working with this laser dub. Don't just take it right out of the package, throw it on there, and call it good. You want to line these fibers up. That way, when you grab it right like this, you're not going to be pulling. It's not going to come apart on you. This is now just one nice, easy to work with bundle. And when you tie this in, you're going to get all of that mass right in the center onto the hook. So see how this is cupped right here? I want that to go right underneath. I can place that exactly where I want it before I tighten this up, shift it around if need be. 1, 2 wraps, I'll get a third one in there, and then I just pull down tight on this. And with this gel spun being so slick, you get those other wraps after you put this in place. When you pull tight on it, it's going to pull that wrap that you have holding the material in place. Now going back to what I was saying about this, if you just tie this in right here, one, it's really sparse, it's not going to look good. But remember how I grabbed that before? This is going to fall apart on you. So make sure that you stack this, get it through here, make sure that you're able to grab this in the center and it's not going to come apart on you, because if you do, when you brush this out before you trim it, you're going to wind up with a clump of laser dub and your head's going to be all messed up. So once again, just a whip finish on this. We are good to go. Touch this up again with some gray. Now, I'll turn this around. So in between these two stacks, there's going to be a nice empty spot, and you're going to be able to see if I move this around, there's an empty spot right there. The glue is going to be able to travel across and then hit the eye on the back side, and that's really going to lock these in place. Just clean this up real quick. I'm not going to put my eyes on yet. I'm going to trim this up, get my shape down that I want. I'm just resting this right up against, I'm resting my scissors right up against this eye, and I'm just traveling back right like that. That's my initial cut is right up against that eye, and that gives me the shape that I want, and then I just follow that path the rest of the way back. Same thing in the front, rest this right up against your eye, make a nice easy cut, and then follow that path the rest of the way back. There you have a nice clean head for this laser dub. Now I'm going to take, this one is not too tacky, so let me get my eyes here. I'm going to set these, get over here. I'm going to take some super glue. This is just a gel. This is the best stuff that I found to put these eyes on with. And I'm going to get a dab right in the center on all of this thread. Same thing, right in the center, right between all of this stuff. And it's going directly to the hook. Well, directly to the thread that's on the hook. I'm going to set this eye on there. I'm going to take my scissors, just spread them out just a little bit so you're able to get good coverage, and then that'll fix that to the hook. Move this out of the way just slightly, get my eye facing forward here. Set that on the glue, same thing, just press that right up against the hook. Now I just move around, make sure that my eyes are right exactly where I want them, and before I just test this real quick, I just put my fingers on here. I'm not feeling anything tacky, everything's pretty good, and then I just hold this for a couple of seconds, let it go, hold it for a couple of seconds, and you're set. I don't put any UV on these, I don't hit them with a torch, nothing. They're just how I want it, the way that it is. Make sure my lateral lines are where they need to be, and then you have all of this shaggy dub sitting out, causes a little bit more motion, and really accents this fly nicely. Get the glue out of the way. There you have it. That is the Midnight Haze Rainbow Riffle. If you guys have questions or comments on this one, as always, leave them with me and I'll get back to you. But thanks as always, and we'll catch you on the next fly.